Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this meeting kicked off. Today it's requested that we spend some time talking about using the template project that we provide when we launch a new client to start a new project. Now, as with all things DTools, there are a number of ways to start a project, and I will emphasize that the approach we take with cloning a project isn't necessarily best or right. It's the approach that we've used at Audio Design for a number of years now. But if you go up into Create, you can create through their navigator. You can import a project. You can bring one in from Mobile Quote. You can start it from a template. So there's a number of ways to do it. There are pros and cons to each. In our world, we want to try to reduce mouse clicks as much as possible, so we like to just simply clone a project. So in that context, if you look in your projects list, there should be in there a BDDS template AV project. I've got a demo version of it checked out, but we start by simply right-clicking and cloning. And when you clone, all of the settings that you have for the project, which would include rooms list, systems list, and your labor factors, are going to be retained. So the point then of having a demo or a template project would be that you don't have to go through all these additional steps. So all we want to do here is rename this. We'd say copy this demo. We'll call this a test. And we can simply save here. Now, DTools gives you a number of different pages that you can enter additional information for. But again, if this is a template, then whatever settings you have for these will be retained. So we'll just say save, and that's going to go ahead and save it and actually launch the project. So we'll let that load. Because this file also has a Visio file associated with it, it's downloading that. It's going to ask if we want it. I'm going to say yes. You see that in the navigator here, where this would be the DTools project up here. This would be the Visio file down here. And you can, by the way, you can have multiple files associated with the project. So you could have CAD files. You can have multiple Visio files, particularly on larger projects. Creating a Visio file for the plan view or rough-end plan drawing, another one for the schematics, possibly even a separate one for the racks, can help keep those Visio file sizes down or keep the overall project size down, which some of these projects get, the file sizes get very, very large. So that's a suggestion, another little best practice that we've learned actually recently and are starting to take advantage of. So when I open this, this is what I'm going to see. This is my new demo test project, and in that we include a line item for documentation. We've talked about in the past our rationale for putting engineering documentation in as a line item as opposed to using the cost factors for that. So let's take a look at that right now, because this would be one of the big benefits of using cloning a project. So the question would be, why would I want to change cost factors? Well, a simple answer would be different types of projects. For instance, new construction may have one set of cost factors. A retrofit could be significantly different, particularly around rough end. So if we're looking at our labor phases in a conventional new construction project, a difficulty factor, or as we refer to it again, inefficiency of labor factor, might be what we have here at 115%. What that basically means is that the base labor, let's say we've got half an hour of rough end labor for a new construction bracket or an hour for a repair. That assumes the time necessary to simply take it out of the box, put the wings on it, and screw it in place. It doesn't take into account driving to the shop in the morning, loading, driving to the project site, unloading. That's all, and again, this is why it's not so much difficulty as it is inefficiency. Unless you're paying your technicians by the piece, it's pretty close to impossible to have a 100% efficiency. So we even in our template bump this up for, and I would say that 120%, 115% is pretty close to the minimum. You know, if you're getting 6+ hours of actual work out of an 8-hour day, you're doing well. So you could have, for instance, a new construction template project that has your difficulty at 115%. If you save that then as a retrofit project, this may bump up by double. This may become 230 or 250%, so that time that it takes to compensate for obviously all the retrofit issues can be adjusted there. So you can adjust these and they'll be retained because it's a project. It's not your default. You only get one default. So if you want to have different sets of cost factors, this is a good way to do it. The other thing is all of these locations. So when you create a project, you can populate this list. If you start from new, this list is going to be unpopulated. So again, here in the Rooms Manager, or the Project Location Manager, we have this rooms tree already created. Now, we have it built, again, in this demo template around residential, but if this were more like a commercial application, a bar and restaurant, you have your entry, you have your bar, you have your various dining areas. So this could be a very different looking rooms tree if it were commercial than it would be for residential. But again, you could have one for resi, one for commercial, different types of projects that you do. Maybe you have one for MDU, or multifamily type of applications. So the other thing, and in the demo, this tree is pre-populated for you. Also, the systems list. In our demo project, we've gone ahead and populated this list of systems, and we've given them short descriptions. Now, again, this is not something that we manage. I want to make sure and point that out. This is simply something that we load when we launch a new client. So it just saves the work of having to create this on your own. As we say many times, it's easier to edit than to create. So you're welcome to do with this list as you will. If you want to edit it, if you want to add to it, that's fine. Nothing that we do in terms of maintaining your product and labor catalog are going to have any effect on that. So that's pre-populated. Getting back to our labor, since we have this item here, one of the things that we leave as a zero factor is, in fact, the design labor within D-Tools. And the reason for that is that our experience is that there is no consistent factor, 10%, 15%, 25%, to capture the amount of engineering documentation that's going to be required for a project. It varies. In some cases, if it's pre-wire only, the percentage may go way up. If it's a new construction project with digital media and lots of expensive equipment, that percentage may come way down. The challenge within D-Tools is that if you set it and use it for a project and then the project changes, particularly once you get through getting the job sold and get into change orders, you can't change this without it affecting the whole project. And that's where you really run into issues. You can get something dialed in to get the job sold, but when you change it, it's retroactive against the whole project, and that can really mess things up. So we found that it's better to put in a line item for your engineering, and then based on the job, you can plug in an amount for your system, for your actual proposal, as well as then for any of the drawings that you might add, your rough-in plan, schematic drawings, racks, device locations are standards that we have applied here. And you can go in and actually apply dollars. You can apply dollars for the proposal and dollars for each of these different plans, so that you're capturing the labor necessary to make engineering a part of your process. So there's not a whole lot more to using the demo project than that. Now, actually, let me think about settings for a moment. If we come into tax settings, this would be another one. So this would be a place where we have somebody new joining us. Let me see. I'm not seeing who it is. So this would be another area where you could create different templates based on different tax areas. Of course, you can go in and create tax settings on your own. We bring the template in at 0, but so you'll want to get that set before you start using it. But if, like in our area, we're in proximity to 3 different counties, and thus 3 different sets of taxes for Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach. So we could conceivably have a template for each of those different counties, so that we don't have to go in and change this for every time we start a new project. And it also is less likely to have an error when we do that. So we've talked about phases and cost factors. We've talked about locations. We talked about systems. Another, I suppose, would be, yeah, actually makes sense. You could, again, you get one default for your contract payments. So again, and now thinking back to the new construction versus the retrofit, a new construction project may well be broken out over more phases than these 4. Well, this is our sort of standard. But new construction, you may have obviously a deposit upon approval, but then some amount upon completion of rough, an amount prior to commencement of trim, completion of trim, ordering of equipment, delivery of equipment. We see contract payments that can be broken up into 12 different line items or something like that, which can make sense. It helps level out the cash flow. And while it's great to have as much money up front as possible, it's also easy to spend it if you have it. So you could set, for a retrofit or a quick turn project, this might just be due upon approval and due upon completion. New construction, many more phases than that. So really, any of those kinds of settings that you might want to have in place, think about it once, apply it to your template, and then it's there and you don't have to think about it again. That would be the advantage of starting from a template project. Now, also, I'm going to go ahead and close this for a moment. This does have, like I say, the Visio file associated with it. So if we were to open this new project with its corresponding Visio file, likewise, we just have it set up for use for a typical kind of project. This is opening on my other screen, so I'll wait for that to open. Not a lot to add there, other than, again, you could conceivably have different page setups, or some folks have different title blocks depending on if they have a commercial division or a residential division. Again, it just really boils down to trying to reduce mouse clicks. But fundamentally, just to reiterate, again, this is a little slow to open, the demo project or the template project that we provide is not, we don't import it being set up for your individual companies. It's something there to provide a jump-off point and to have for use if you choose to. So I don't know why Visio is taking so long to open here. Yeah, maybe we're getting close. I'll go ahead and pull this over in the meantime. Does anybody, while this is opening, does anybody have any questions? Might be a good pause point for a question if anybody's got them. There, it looks like it's coming on. So, again, in the context of the Visio file, we basically have it set up, tabbed for a cover page, tabbed for plan view pages, which could include security. We have it tabbed. Many of you probably haven't seen this or necessarily looked at this dimensions page, but we have this page set up actually to print to 8.5 by 11. And the idea behind this page is simply to pull in local room equipment. So if you've got TVs in obviously multiple locations, may have a sound bar, may have an in-room sub, oftentimes the cabinet people, the interior designers, want to have dimensions for that. So the nice thing about this page is you can just drag a TV here, dimension it, bring the sound bar on, dimension it, and then print this to 8.5 by 11, and you can you can then give that to the interior design for a normal printer, and they just have it, literally you just come in here and adjust the room names as you go. So this is a page we give you. Likewise, we have one set up to use for rack layouts. We have another one set up to use for schematics. And within DTools, as a reminder, there are 4 different page types. There's schematics, there's elevation, there's plan, and there's a line drawing. So each of these is set up to its different plan type. And just if you ever do need to change that, you can come over to add-ins, come over to DTools, and look at utilities. You can change the page type here if you choose to. You just say yes and pick the different types of any of the different pages that you want. So I'm going to cancel that. And then these borders are all originate here. So these are where you get into background pages in Visio, and you can see that Visio makes these italics instead of non-italic. So what we do is we create a border here. This border can be edited. If you come over to the design view, you can come in and change the text, change logos, change the project name here, and any edits that you make on the background will translate over. Well, in fact, let's go ahead and do that, and you can see what I'm talking about. So, sample project. If I replace this with, say, test project, and close that, now all of my pages, that's going to translate over to this border, because these pages, if we go into the design view and look, you'll see they're actually referencing the plan view pages are referencing the background lower level. So the way this works is we have the background page set up with the border, and then for our plan view pages, we actually have those set up such that they will reference the background itself. So we only have to put one background in, and that will translate out to all the pages. So you can, any edits, any notes that you make as far as revisions, things like that, will translate out to all of your pages, and it saves a lot of copying and pasting, and saves a lot of errors when you forget to go in and edit. So basically what we do is set up these pages such that they reference, so here is probably just references the background. Yeah, so this one just looks to the background border page. It's only the plan views that we reference the different levels, so we can insert a plan one time and then create as many plan view pages of that as we need. So that is about all I've got to cover as far as templates go. I do not want to run long. Everybody's time is valuable. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording as it relates to, well, unless one more chance regarding the template. Does anybody have any questions that I can cover before I stop the recording here?
Hey, Kurt, Steve.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry, I was writing all my questions in the chat.
Oh, no worries.
I think you actually answered my question on the background pages for multiple layers. So you have one layer, which is the border, and then I guess my question was for multiple layers, obviously a secondary layer would be like your plan view that you've added in.
Yeah, so, what you'll run into is these backgrounds get big, and the bigger the file gets in DTools, I want to say I forget what the limit is, but it's 20 meg or something like that before DTools will start to get a little unstable. So we want to try to, we don't want to make the files bigger than they need to be, and you also just want to save work. So the nice thing is that you can put these plans in, and then let's say, and this happens all the time, the plan changes. You start early in the project, now they bring a new plan in, all you have to do is replace it one time, bring it in here, and you can actually overlay it. So I've got, right now, I have this locked down. I could go into my layers and, oh, I'm on the wrong, do it here. So if I needed to, I could, in fact, lock this layer down. Oh, actually, no, that's the title. I didn't create a layer for this one. So what I would want to do is I would want to say assign to a layer. We'll create one for back background. And now, if we wanted, we could lock that. All right, so now that would move around. So if the plan changed, I could drop a new file in here and then size it where it's very, where I can sometimes, assuming it should be the same scale coming in, you can get it sized exactly to what you have here, and then go in and just delete the original file. And then all of the work that you did on these plan view pages doesn't wind up getting shifted around so much. Everything will still be in its place. So basically, yeah, we create the one background border. We reference that from any other backgrounds we create, and generally these backgrounds are just simply for plan views. So the plan view pages, we're going to reference their respective background page, so we capture the floor plan that we want. The other drawings, the racks and the schematics, these we're just referencing the background itself. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yeah. And then just one other quick question I have for you too, in terms of your dimensions page that you showed earlier. Can you just drop an item on there just so I can sort of see what you're? I mean, I sort of understand what you're asking.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, let me get back over here. Let's go.
Does it come out like an elevation? Is it an elevation page?
It does. So what would happen is, let's put this over here, and we'll just add let's add a TV. TVs are what we use it for most of the time. So, oops, not an SBR, but an XBR. So, I'm going to be lazy and not even pick a system or a room for it. We'll just get it in here. And when you drag this in, then, so it's going to come in like this. And the format that we use, and I think this is probably in our sample documentation set. If it's not, I'll have to have Doug add it. But what we'll do is go ahead and dimension this for your front, but then we'll also to the side do a side dimension. I believe you can generate side view. So this is kind of cool. So right here takes the depth dimension. So we could create a side view like that, and also then put our rack and a back box. So you could draw yourself a little line. That's a connector tool. I want a line. So you could do something like this and make that the wall and show where then, what's behind the wall versus what's in front of the wall. And that's kind of a handy thing to have as well. So yeah, it just comes in like this, and you just dimension it. Put your local sources if there are any. Put a sound bar in here if you need to, and then just call this whatever you need to call it. If it's 101, family room. So, and then when you print it, you just print it to 8.5 by 11. That can be a bit tricky. I have to go in and change my print settings. But basically, this is just a big palette, essentially. So we have the page size set up to. I have to go in and futz around with this right now. But basically, these are all 8.5 by 11. So you just do that math and create your page size to print accordingly, and then you can print these out as 8.5 by 11s. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, but then you say you can print these out, so each one of these is actually an individual page.
Yeah, what happens is this is one big page, but when you set your print settings to print it, you can set them so that it prints this as multiple pages.
Oh, okay.
It's actually tricking. It's kind of tricking it. You'll notice sometimes, like if you go into, when I look at this, so let me do this. Let me try something here. So when you get this dialed in, so you can begin to see, Steve, how these are starting to be the shape we want, but right now the drawing page is a little bigger. So what we would do is set the drawing page, let's see what that would be, 8.5 by 25. So it's going to wind up being 34 by, actually 34 by 33 is what we want. There is a, yeah, 34 by 33 is actually right. There is something, I don't know if it's in my printer. I'd have to play around with this a little bit. This should just, these little lines will go away. We're actually close here. I'll be honest with you, Doug normally does these, I don't, so he could dial it in. But it's just a print setting, and these will fill this page. And then when you print it, it's going to print these all as individual pages.
Right. Now, one other quick question. I know you said you could put the elevation in. How are you writing the elevation in? Are you just dropping a text box in, or is there an actual like ruler that sort of pre-measures this for you? I know like the item probably already has its detail. Is that just something we need to expose? Or how do you get the actual sizing to it?
Yeah, there's dimension lines available, not elevation shapes. What we may do if you want to use this, probably the best bet would be for me to get Rich with you or Doug and let them. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't do this drawing very much, like only once or twice ever. But it is a cool drawing and one that we've used with designers quite a lot. But yeah, somewhere over here are dimension lines, and you just pull the dimension line on, and then it'll be scaled. So I don't know that you can turn on.
Is it under view, maybe?
No, that's going to tell you that. No, the way we do it is we just drag a dimension line on and then dimension it, and then it'll
follow up with them.
Yeah, they can give you the nitty gritty on that. And one of the promises I've made on this call is to not go long, and we're at 4:32. So I'm going to go ahead and end this recording, so at least that doesn't go long. Steve, if you want to hang on, let me stop this. So thank you everybody for joining, and hopefully picked up some tips and tricks.